digital business. I'm Nigel Fennick, and today I'm talking to the Global Chief Digital Officer at Mars, Sandeep Dadlani. Mars is a complex business, and like a lot of complex businesses, there are roles inside, say, marketing, that are looking at voice of the customer and maybe customer experience, and certainly doing digital marketing. There's people inside business units that are responsible for aspects of digital and certainly customer experience. You may even have a dedicated customer experience team. You can let us know that. How are you coordinating across all of these groups to try and remove sort of the friction points?
And I think, Nigel, this is critical because many organizations, culturally or otherwise, land into turf wars and political battles. The battles between CMO, CDO, or chief supply chain officer and CDO are classic. I think the difference here, to some extent, is the mandate. The mandate is not to do digital for the entire organization. The mandate is to help the entire organization become digital and do digital in their own roles. So that's one big difference. The other difference is definitely the Mars culture. I mean, it's human and empathy led. And so what we've tried to do is not to try and set up a parallel customer experience team or a parallel digital marketing team, but we have, in context of the problems the digital marketing teams are solving for, or the customer experience team is solving for, the supply chain team solving for, help bring the consumer in, reframe the problem, use some advanced analytics and data scientists to solve it quickly in a different way, automate it, and then frankly say, hey, if you like this capability and if you can scale this capability, we're going to create a pod for you and give it to you. And it's very disarming when you tell a group, any group in a large company, I'm going to show you how to do this better. I'm going to make you successful. I'm going to celebrate you. And oh, by the way, I'm going to create this capability and give it to you as a gift. Sometimes it's almost too good to be true. Now, don't get me wrong. There are tensions. There's always tensions on even opinions on how to do things faster, better, etc. And so I think the good news about Mars is those tensions are human. They're empathetic, and I personally believe no tension cannot be resolved with a late night drink together. So that's the usual sort of unsophisticated formula, but it always works in terms of resolving tensions and driving alignment. But we welcome positive tensions by creating forums where, in fact, there are forums we have. There's a forum called Connecting the Dots, which our lead CMO and I have, where we are inviting both the teams to place that call is meant to surface every tension. And we encourage people to bring the tensions along. And I mean, mechanisms like that help.
So how do you get over the natural concern many companies have, or many employees have inside companies, of being afraid to voice their opinion, right? That whole if I say something, it'll come back and bite me. How does the culture at Mars work to help empower people to speak truth to power?
Some of the things that work for us is, first of all, the family and the leadership team at Mars have always encouraged an open office culture. In fact, I remember interviewing at Mars. I walked into the reception at the headquarters in McLean, and the CEO literally saw me from a corner, and because it's an open office, and he rushed up and hugged me. And I was like, wow. I mean, I've been with CEOs of many large companies, and so that itself is a charmer to start with. So there is a culture of hugging, and I mean it physically and emotionally. Not during COVID times, obviously, but there is a culture of embracing another Martian as one's own family. We've had to create forums which allow people to be fearless, to be bold, both in thinking and doing, by celebrating failures and so on. For example, I'll openly tell you half of our sprints have failed disastrously, absolutely disastrously. But every time that happens, we make some example out of it. We make fun of it. We actually roast somebody who's actually failed in some ways, and then take the learnings and try and drive the next thing quickly. We have emphasized speed hundreds of times over perfection, and progress over certainty. Ultimately, you want to be big and fast. A startup can be fast because they're not scared of failure. We are big, so I refuse to believe we have to be slow.
Yeah, there's a whole dilemma of there's you have a lot to lose because you're defending a big business. So experimenting means that you put things at risk. I'm interested in whether you've done anything around metrics, because that comes up a lot in my conversations around how people are measured. What are the success metrics look like, both as they roll down, but whether people in IT can be accountable for business results, etc. I mean, what's your point of view on the sort of the individual metrics and how they roll?
So in Mars, the digital transformation overall has been a board agenda, and we have evolved the metrics over time. But essentially, the metrics have been divided into two areas. One are leading metrics and one are lagging metrics. Lagging metrics is essentially around digital commerce and D2C growth, sales growth in our digital channels. We are constantly launching new digital campaigns, and in Halloween, Treat Town was a good example of that. The other lagging metrics are around our supply chain digitization. For example, customer service levels are a good, so they're those kind of lagging metrics. Leading metrics are usually the number of sprints, the number of people enrolled in the UC movement, the number of automations. Today morning, we just did a review where we have already driven automation and freed up 300,000 man hours. And that's a metric for today. And we're really making rapid progress on that. The number of AI projects and so on. So I think between the leading and lagging metrics, we are cool at a senior level. Then we are tracking about 14 transformational programs. For example, some even foundational stuff like master data transformation has dials that show the amount of customer master data that's been solved for or product data that's been solved for. Others like strategic revenue management has how much pricing or margin has been unlocked using these analytics. So each program has their own set of metrics. Ultimately a balance of a metrics driven culture and a more sort of inspiration, curiosity, enthusiasm, energy driven culture has been useful for us. Mm-hmm. I feel we wouldn't have done very well if we teetered too much to one towards the other. A completely metrics driven culture would then have people gaming the metrics. It's human nature to do that. And a completely inspiration and excitement driven culture then doesn't allow us to get organized properly for the goals we have. Does that make sense?
What are you doing around customer metrics? So understanding like what you're doing in terms of improving customer value, customer experience. What kind of metrics are you using there?
So in terms of, so we divide the customer into, first of all, consumer. So in our 5 principles, we believe the consumer is the boss more than anybody. Unfortunately, not Bruce Springsteen, but the consumer is the boss. And we are constantly measuring the first party data we have and how intimate we are with consumers directly. In many parts of our business, that then leads us to start measuring lifetime value of consumers or cohorts of consumers that we are working with. That by itself is a great idea of a net promoter score with consumers. With customers, it's usually both CSL levels, the number of innovations jointly launched with customers, and frankly, share. For most CPG companies, share is important. Yeah. For parts of a business like the vet health business, our consumers are our customers. And so that's a direct-to-consumer business generally, and there are different satisfaction metrics there. Overall, as a company, this pivot of really being consumer-centric as much as we being customer-centric is changing the language internally to more, LTV, CAC, impressions, conversions, versus the classic CPG mindset was always just, the CSL level, and that was it.
Wow, there's a lot to take out from that conversation today. Thanks, Sandeep. More to come. Stay tuned. This is Digital Business. I'm Nigel Fennick.